Welcome back, everybody. This is Nightflight, and today I have James True with me. He has been here before. A couple of you have asked to bring him back. jtrue jtrue.com is his website. He has quite a CV. I will only mention a couple of things: bachelor in religion and philosophy, software engineering, transitional, and then he transitioned from writing code to writing books. One of them is Blueprints of Mind Control, and the other one is The Spell of the Six Dragons. James, welcome back.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me back. Good to see you.
So, James, before we jump into our subject at hand, which will be for the most part Epstein the Op. That is how I call it. I read something on your website. I will read it and then please elaborate a little bit. None of us need words to communicate. I can reach you deeper with my vibration. We need no schooling to comprehend. All we need is desire.
Yes. I'm glad you saw that. I think that's probably the key to what's causing all the mind control and the spellcraft right now. Language, first of all, language divides us by language. And second of all, it creates an ascension program where some language is not as gifted or talented as more advanced language. So if I was to go up to the doctor and say, my triune brain is hurting, they would be insulted because I didn't use the right term. I didn't say my medulla oblongata is hurting or something. And so it becomes an avenue where we can either create fellowship, but more than likely kind of separate ourselves into different classifications. And so we forget, because we talk in words all the time, that I can communicate with someone through emotion, through emoting, I should say, through the silence of presence. Is such a powerful thing. The way that my gestures right now, which are sending just as many, if not more, signals to you than the actual words that I'm using. Even the sound and tone of my voice, more importantly, the spaces that I'm using in between the words to make them sound really dramatic.
Yeah.
And there's so much of what we can say is through sound. So,
and we are also decoding that, that part that is not being said.
Yes. Only half of us really even, we're each having our own completely separate conversation too, that has to be decoded back into the original intent, which if we were more emotive with each other, which is difficult over certain interfaces. In person, it's ideal, because the way if I'm swaying back and forth like this, I might convey that I'm a little bit preoccupied, or I'm a little bit nervous maybe. If I'm going to be trying to be over towering, there's just so much that's translated that we pretend isn't there. And I haven't even touched on smell. I mean, smell is, wow, that's such a deeper thing that's happening. So even though I'm a writer, I'm constantly amazed by how much we're limited by language, and even inside your head, because I could be out on my porch trying to write, for example, and if someone next door is playing a radio and those radio has words, I am listening to those words. It's very difficult because I'm trying to concentrate on new words. I'm actually hypnotized by an outside sound that's coming from outside myself, but only because of the words. In other words, I could hear a bird or a squirrel or a hummingbird, and they're making noise, but it's not distracting me from what I'm doing. It's the words are these sigils. They're charged with meaning. So I'm not just hearing the sound of a radio. I'm hearing, oh, she left me and it was the most painful thing that ever happened to me, and now I'm sad. You know, I am in that pocket, you know, and that's why they're so hypnotic. We hypnotize each other with that. And it's at the deepest level of mind control that there is, and that's why compulsory education makes it so important that all of us are trained in a separate language even, but also through separate hierarchies of that's the biggie, is the hierarchies. A blue collar person, I think they have that expression in Germany, but a blue collar person has a completely different language than a white collar person. Just as a white robed person, like a doctor, would have a completely different language than even a nurse. Even they have completely different language sets. In fact, they breed their own kind of tribal nature. But all this is only because of words. If we were in the same room, none of us are brave enough to do this. But if we were in the same room, we could greet each other and not say anything, like just simply behold each other. Like the part where if I'm beholding you and you get nervous because you're feeling the power of my stare, or you know, whatever, like if you feel intimidated by that, that intimidation is still a communication back to me. And so if I'm emoting to you and I see that you maybe are feeling a little shy, that's a deep emotion that's being communicated between us that requires no words at all, like none. In fact, it could even be a more precise way of communicating. Instead, if that person was to say, oh, I'm kind of nervous because we're not saying anything right now. So I hope I've explained that okay.
Yeah, I understand. And as a writer, you know, when you're writing, not you personally, it can be anybody. There is that what we read, but then underneath that there is a very subtle message. You know, if you step back, there is something conveyed that is not being said, and that is the real message. And I think a lot of people don't get it anymore.
That's why I like writing so much, even though I'm telling you how, I'm sorry, it's like really bad thunder right now. But even though I'm telling you how difficult they are to communicate, I've been really experimenting with that part of it. And so my last book, which I like my book, so I'm going to tell you guys what I like about my book is that it's communicating on this. It's an emotional argument. Because I'm using a medium to explain the same truth, but I'm getting you there from an emotional point. That's why I call it pulp nonfiction, because it's still the truth, but it's also pulpy in a way to where you understand the sentiment that lies behind Satanism, for example. You understand what's going on in the psychopath's mind from an empathic standpoint, something that you would never see in the world. You're understanding why they're feeling that way, why they're following that way. And to me, that there's a whole other level of truth that I'm leaving you with there that I don't actually have to explain. All I have to do is just set up the characters properly, you know, and say, well, this is how this psychopath was created. And this is why they're now doing what they're doing. It's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So now let's shift gears. The Epstein case. My. Yeah, of course. I got a lot of emails and people telling me, you see, here it comes. It starts, the swamp will be drained. No, guys, sorry, the swamp will not be drained. What is your take, James?
I'm closer to that, to what you just said too. I will always have this fantasy in my head, and I'm always trying to look for signs of that, of land, you know, like, like I know that if there was going to be land, I'm going to see a certain thing. And so I'm constantly looking for that certain thing. Absolutely. But this is an 11-year plan. You know, Epstein actually probably goes back to 2007, but in 2008, when Epstein first ordered that industrial shredder brought to the island, he's been, not just him, everyone's had 11 years to prep this narrative. I think it's probably best to call it a narrative. And I understand why it was sold that way. I see why Q posted the temple images, for example, in a certain way where it looked like a satanic temple. I've got some pictures that show it's not a satanic temple at all, not even close. But that's how Q wanted it presented. He wanted that to be sold to people. And those same people will now say, yeah, well, you know, Q said he was going to lie to us. So that is certainly, actually, I guess he would use the word deceive, but to me, those are the same. So, you know, some people are still like, well, yeah, he's supposed to lie to us about the temple, but there's something really irresponsible happening
What for?
underneath that. You know, we're now looking for government to lie to us. We're hoping that government lies to us. And when they do it now, we're calling people that complain about that unpatriotic or untrusting or not positive people. So, and that's really, I think that really, to me, that's what shows me the real truth of what's happening, how dangerous this is, because that's just scratching the surface. If you're looking for people that looking for mass arrest, there's already a hope train for that, which is strong. But deep beneath that train is a much larger subway that's been there for centuries. And it's the Abrahamic religions. If you look in the book of Revelation, there's a reason why you're seeing the exact same patterns happen. And most of so many people out there think it's because of God, that this is a God is wanting this to happen. And they're explaining, well, because there's no other reason why this would be happening. And you can logically tell them, hey, I believe in God too. And I believe in God. But this book, Revelations, it was written 2500 BC. It was written by probably Zoroaster, probably. And these are Kabbalists. Kabbalah is a secret society. It's the oldest secret society I've ever found. There could be older. It's just the oldest one I've been able to find. And if you go back to that, it's the promise of good things through the study of this tradition, of this oral tradition. It's just as the Freemasons, for example, just to pick one as an example. Hey, if you rise up to be degree 33, you will have secrets that no one else will have. Okay, that's an ascension program. That's in the Army has the ascension program. If you enlist, you will become a private, and if you work really hard, you can be a sergeant. It's all of society, our schooling from first grade to second grade to third grade, all of those are an ascension program. The entire world's set up to sell this secret society notion. But the oldest one is the Kabbalah. And the requirements for the Kabbalah were pretty strict. First of all, you had to be at least 40 years old before you could even be like a Kabbalist. I'm talking about originally. I mean, you can certainly get into it now more. But not only that, but you had to have credentials. You had to be a white-collar Hebrew scholar. You had to understand certain texts. You had, I believe you probably needed to know a couple of other languages. I don't want to get that wrong. But the point is that Kabbalah was originally a secret society group that was for the upper echelon. It already had certain requirements. And once you enter those requirements, the entire thing is an oral tradition. And it's not like it's only because they couldn't write stuff down. It's Kabbalah has always been at its core an oral tradition. And when you have an oral tradition, you have secrets. You have people that are whispering things to other people. And when you're passing down information from generation after generation after generation, it would behoove you, if you were a psychopath, to add something to that thread, to contribute something that you've added. It's kind of like your little signature, like, hey, look at what I did. And you could even use that signature to somehow suggest that maybe there's a royal bloodline, or maybe there's a reason why people should pay taxes to the state, or why someone actually heard Jesus say, render unto Caesar all of his, his due. We're giving all of the bullets to the bad guys, and then we're not counting them when they're done. And we're trusting all of this tradition, all of these things in one central authority that is in of itself a secret society. It just is. It still is, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, and you also have, I'm paraphrasing here, the Bible verse that says that to be obedient to the authorities, the governments, that ultimately all power comes through God. And funny enough, that is written in the book of Romans.
Yeah, it's and how do you explain that to people when they draw strength from the very book that it looks like you're attacking? And that's why, and I don't feel like I'm attacking the Bible. I'm just more explaining that you can lay out, if you wanted to control the world, you wouldn't try overnight. Okay. You would understand this is a big task. If I want to control the world, I got to think long-term. That's step one. Step two, you would look at this like a pharaoh would. You would look at this like how do I control the mind of everyone? I don't want to control them by force. I don't want to control them by daggers, by fire, by taxation. I want their mind. That if I can control their mind, I don't have to lift a finger. I don't have to go kill anybody. In fact, I could even be in a karmic balance with what I think my God is, because I'm not physically causing them harm. If they're killing each other, I might be able to relinquish this karma. I'm just telling you, this is what they're thinking. And they're able to craft a spell. The oldest science we have is magic. The oldest alchemy we have is magic. And psychopathy is magic. It is a vital part of how to control someone's mind. I'm only saying this because I want people to realize it's all around us. I mean, even though I'm using the word magic, any kind of narcissist, any kind of sociopath, anyone who's manipulating you or lying to you, kids are using magic all the time. We're lying to our CPAs. Our CPAs are lying to their CPA. This is every court. Courts are even set up where, okay, you guys get to lie all you want about this, and you guys get to lie all you want about that, and then these people get to decide which of you are telling the truth. So the entire thing is about mental manipulation. So 2500 BC, you've got some Kabbalists that are like, how do we manipulate the mind? How do we set about the great work? This great work is this idea of, well, what we would call it now is the eye of providence. The Illuminati is what people would call it also, but it's much deeper than that. This is really the pyramid. The original pyramid had an eye on it. It's the only decoration that's on the thing. The idea of this one eye is literally one vision. All of your dopamine comes from your retina. Controlling that vision really does control everything. So you have a long-term goal that was set in place, and that goal involved Abrahamic religion, the three branches of Abraham, and it's a huge, long story. And I'm not saying that all of it is fake, but because it's not. It can't be. We draw too much power from it. But it's a belief. It's a belief flypaper is what it is. It's a belief beacon or lighthouse. It's there to pull people's beliefs into a central place, and that place has three branches: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And those branches are all designed to do the same thing, which is maintain our belief, keep us around the central maypole. And that's exactly what Epstein is. That's exactly what QAnon is. These are smaller versions of these, like a belief spell. They're casting this thing in space-time. It could be a pop star. Here's Britney Spears. And now everyone who's swarming around her is contained. They're controllable. You can work with that. That's why archetypes are so important. That's why we have these altars that are built into Hollywood. That's why Les Wexner, the guy that funded Epstein, Epstein is just another one of those Britney Spears. He's a belief archetype. His belief is pedophilia, making people rich through his apparent mastermind bullshit that he says he was into. He's just another magnet for that kind of thing. And if you want to control the world, you learn how to control those magnets. You learn how to control what magnets will be popular, how to stimulate a weak ego across the world where they're desperate for that kind of attention or that kind of acceptance. It's always a golden child. The actor is the golden child, and everyone watching them is the scapegoat. So there's a science to it. There's an alchemy to how to do this, and we're watching it play out, and we're losing each other because we're invested in these stories. And the second I try and tell you, hey, let's look at Exodus from fresh eyes. Let's really look at this and say, look, this is a plan to dominate the world. That the four horsemen of the apocalypse actually used to be good things. It was the cycle of the day. Behold, a pale horse was the rising of the sun. The red horse was the setting of the sunset. The black horse was night. The yellow horse was the dawn. These things, the truth is not what Revelation says it is, but people are too afraid to doubt that. They're too afraid of burning in hell because they're going to think for themselves. And this is what I mean by this deep, deep, deep mind control, the subway mind control that's underneath the, I believe in America first, or I believe in red party versus blue party. I'm talking about a deep biblical salvation, kind of belief that's going to steer us into this one world order, all on purpose. This is just, it's so simple how to design like this, It's all Hegelian dialectic. It's all setting up two towers, and you're going to guide the cow right in between them. It works every time. The magic is just that good.
Yeah. So now I was paying attention to the internet connection, and I lost my thought. I'm having senior moments, James.
Well, I said a whole lot, and I don't know how to get people to reconsider the Bible without losing their connection to God. All I can do is talk about the technology of belief, how belief is finite. We only have like so many belief tokens every day. And when you're giving 40% of them to the government, you only have 60% left. I don't think we know that. I don't think that we understand how finite and how valuable our beliefs are. Like, if anything could wake us up, it would be an instant renaissance in our own belief, in understanding that our beliefs are much more valuable than our time, even than our money. Then what we believe in is where we push awareness, where we put we put energy into.
Mm.
And these black magicians, they know exactly what belief is. They know how to harness this prana, this energy, this life force that's coming out of us. You know, in my circle, it's everyone that's like, no, it's everything's going to be okay now. Epstein's going to get arrested and all this is going to be okay now. That is belief in not doing anything, in the sense of, you know, being apathetic. And that's a terrible word. People don't like it, but that's just what's happening, is that you're going to stay in that trance of all this is going to be taken care of. You'll see. Here, sit down, watch, you'll see. That belief is changing your entire contribution to the world. That's how important belief is. It's everything. And if we had more belief in ourselves, I think we would instantly start to pull our consent back from government. More and more of us would say, I don't think that taxes should work this way. I don't think that the federal, it shouldn't be a centralized system. It should be a decentralized system. We should be experimenting with more ways to make this thing less top heavy and more grassroots. Government should percolate up from the soil. We should percolate up our resources. What we're doing is we're sending all of our energy to a giant bucket, and we're hoping that bucket's going to pour back down on us. It shouldn't have to. We should be exactly the opposite. And the mind control is making it the other way. It's making that pyramid form. And that's why it's happening in every country. You know, this isn't just a rare phenomenon. This is happening everywhere systematically. And that's because someone's planning it that way.
There is a deep-rooted desire for being saved in many humans. Do you think that desire was cultivated via religion, or was that desire there and then religion was added on top of it?
The desire to feel safe, right?
To be saved, actually.
Say what?
To be saved, actually, from whatever.
Yeah, well, the safer you feel, the less calories you're burning. And the less calories you're burning, the longer you're going to survive. So, you know, I guess evolutionarily speaking, you could say that our optimal state is to feel safe. But safe is actually an illusion. Safe is actually a trance. You could sell the idea of safety, even though no one's ever safe. And the way to sell that is to make everything around you as unsafe as possible. And then you create a bubble inside of safe. This is what dolphins do when they're working together for fish. Whales do it too. They'll blow a ring of bubbles, creating the cavitation of unsafety for fish around the outside edge. And that tunnel is mind control. It's causing those fish to not leave that space. It's too dangerous for them to go through a bubble, so they'd rather be swallowed by a dolphin. It's safe is a trance that's put in us. That's why false flags are so important. The government doesn't do false flags because they're cruel or evil or satanic. I'm not saying they are or they aren't. I'm saying that let's pretend like government is like super nice and everyone there is the greatest person, that they have morals, they go to church every day. I still think you'd have false flags. There's no other way to put 250, like in America, there's 250 million people that vote. So it's impossible to put 250 million people into a trance where they are satisfied with red or blue. Like that's mind control. There's no way that you could find 250 birds that would agree, you know, to pick one or the other, or dolphin or fish or snails or whatever. That's mind control. The way that you do that is over time through academia, through compulsory education, through medical, through atmospheric, through societal, through culture. That's why Hollywood is more the government. Hollywood and media are more the government than the government is, really. The real ranch owners would be, you know, the media and the people that run Hollywood. The government's almost like the ranch hand that feeds the sheep, you know, like he doesn't actually own the ranch. He's just the guy that feeds them. So all of these things are, false flags would be necessary, the same way that a rancher might love his sheep, but if the sheep get too close to the goat's pen, you're going to have to tag one with a prod. You're going to have to make that unpleasant for everyone, you know. And that's how you make things unpleasant. You stage false flags. That's why they're always at schools. Those are emotionally charged. This is why it works. This is why Magic Johnson has AIDS, and then, you know, for 3 decades, and then this is why you land people on the moon and claim that, you know, the Apollo 11 thing. All these things they're not there because someone's like really twisted or psychopathic. They're simply trying to maintain belief. And to do that, you need a box. You need a foundation. I would say, let's call that religion. Then you need a ceiling. Let's call that the space program. Like, what we can do if we unite as a nation is that we could tackle Mars. That's like an idea that everyone could sort of limit themselves by. And then you have the walls around you, which would be, you know, your schooling, the way you look at science, the way you look at your role, how you might look at yourself as a virus on the planet. You know, most of us are taught to think that way about ourselves. That's definitely a wall that keeps us in certain ways. Our lack of sovereignty, the fear of ourselves is a biggie, you know, like, well, we can't trust each other with guns. We can only trust the government with guns. Like, it's thinking like that. All those are part of this necessary installation of non-safety, of really injustice, or dissonance would be a better word, just because it would fit all kinds of categories. They're creating a queue of dissonance around us, and inside is the cessation of dissonance. It's the least dissonant spot there is, and it's only because we're around each other. It's only because we're gathered up and herded together that we just naturally feel safer, because we're touching shoulder to shoulder, going through the same thing together. Brilliant plan.
And government is constantly harping on that. We have to do this and that to keep you safe.
Yeah. We would be truly free. If government wasn't doing these things, there wouldn't be a government. It flat out wouldn't happen. But you could say the same thing about a lot of the churches. There wouldn't be the poor. There's plenty of food to go around. There's plenty of all this is plenty. We can more than help each other. So why do we have to have all the gold in the world? One queen and one pope, one bishop, and it's just
Yeah.
It's a mess. But it's only a mess because we're giving them our belief. And I don't see us stopping that. I think the third temple's coming. I think it's already coming. Kushner is definitely been named the Mashiach. They're
the handler of Trump.
Well,
yeah, I see him like that. I'm sorry.
You think he's handling Trump?
Mm-hmm. And then you have the connection to Chabad Lubavitch, and I think he is handling him that way.
I think that Trump is handling himself in the sense that he's a self-managed asset. So many are, like Alex Jones is one, but Kushner is one also. There's people. If you understand someone, they become predictable, and if you know that someone's predictable enough, you can put them in a maze, and you'll know exactly where they'll go. And I think that's more how Mossad operates now. That's what Kushner is. Kushner was made the golden child from a very young boy. Probably from the time he was 4, he was told, "You've been chosen by God to do this and do this. And chemically, there's no way that he would ever feel good by stepping away from that and saying, that's bullshit. Like, no, that's not how it works. I wasn't like, there's no way that would hurt him. That would be painful for him to pull away and say, I don't think the world works that way. The same with Ivanka Trump, the same with Donald Trump, the same with Netanyahu. That's why it's such a deep spell. This is such a deep black magic spell. Literally narcissism is when one person thinks they're special, like they're like a chosen person. That's what Judaism is. It is a living narcissism. It says they are the chosen people. And you can approach religion healthfully, which many Jews do. They have a healthy relationship with that, just like Christians, because Christians feel the same. There's a narcissism that comes with Christianity. The same thing in Islam. This is how the mind control works. You set up golden child versus scapegoats. And now you have a torus, a power vacuum that's going to cause these systems to fall into place. And then it just takes a little blackmail here, a little mind control here, and, a little mind programming here with Hollywood, things like that. And, a couple world wars, this is all the same stuff. These are all the same people doing the same things. And every year another world bank's falling. So that's why I don't think people really understand, like Venezuela, they think that was an organic thing that just happened. And no, that was a free country. That was a kick-ass free country that even right now is still trying to say, let's do a local cryptocurrency that's based off gold. Like even now they're still trying to do the right thing, but other powers aren't going to let them. And Iran's going to fall and we're not going to know it. Like Iran may have already fallen. Like we have to realize that things don't happen like we've been told they happen. It's not like a game of tag where, no, I tag, you're it. And everyone has to, no, that's not how this game works. No one has to do or say anything. No one owes it to the people to tell them, what's actually happening. So that's why it's such a mess. The only way out of it is to pull our belief out. But it's going to have to reevaluate our feelings about God. And how do you do that, Judith?
I have a very unique perspective personally, and I think it does not sit well with a lot of people. So I'm not saying there is no creator, yeah? Want to point out that one first. But I deeply believe that what is being presented here to us as God is a program. It's literally an AI cube that is broadcasting different things depending on your culture, your belief structure. And in that sense, it's not a question, oh, do you believe in the wrong God? No, God is the problem. I know how that sounds. But I have a strong feeling that is not the real creator. I don't think he is even in this entire construct, even in the realm of what we call multiverses. I think he is far beyond that. He, she, whatever, you know what I mean. I think what is being presented here as God is a deception.
Like the Demiurge? Have you heard that term, the Demiurge?
Yes, and I had an interview with Tom Montauk last week, and we talked about the Demiurge quite a bit.
Because the Demiurge would definitely fit the profile of an AI, I think.
Yeah, and Tom, on his website, he says that very blatantly, that the Demiurge is an AI.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I might be wrong, I know that. I'm not claiming to have it correct. That's just my feeling. That's how I'm wired right now.
Yep. Well, in my last book, Blueprints of Mind Control, I wrote about Kronos begat Leviathan, and the idea that in Lemuria or Atlantis, the last round of civilization, which whatever you want to call it, I mean, we all know something was here 13,000 years ago. There's definitely something that was here, some kind of civilization. And if you look at Amazon Alexa right now, if you were to stretch out Amazon Alexa and just give it like 50 years, it's no longer having to be a round box that you keep in your house. It's something that's running wirelessly through the air somehow. It's maybe drawing its power from the crystals in the mountain, in the earth, where as the sun comes up, it's heating the earth, and then when it goes down, it's cooling it. And it could be collecting photons through the physioelectric effect and somehow finding ways to store those, and it knows where to go to scoop up energy each day, and it's listening for your thoughts, just like Amazon Alexa does now. And if you were to give it commands, it could serve you. And that's really what we see now as demons, as this idea of these etheric creatures. But if you take that out, let's say in 50 years we have that Amazon Alexa and the government installs it and just says, sorry, this is just what it is. Let's say it was the greatest, nicest, kindest AI you could ever imagine. That when you got up in the morning, it was like, hey man, I think you should lift weights today. Like, I really think that if you work on your upper body, it's going to get your body into more burning calories or this or that, or, I know that in a month you're going to the beach. Trust me, man, this will feel good. Like, take that times 1,000, where this thing's like, hey, I made you this breakfast and I found this new superfood that comes from the glands of a hummingbird that I was able to coax out of by kissing this lemon zest plant that I found by photochemically adapting this. And next thing you know, now you're a giant. Like, now you're living to be 800 years old because this AI is enhancing you. It's training you, just like a gardener would take a pumpkin and bring it into the greenhouse. That would become a different pumpkin inside a greenhouse. It would have it would be prolific even in that condition. So much so that comparing it to an outdoor pumpkin would be really almost two totally different species. So imagine that this AI is doing that to us. That would be very easy to imagine within 500 years or 1,000 years, it doesn't matter. We're back to this Nephilim. We have now created ourselves into these super giants that are like gods, that appear like gods. And we have 6 fingers now because we're bigger, because the AI decided, hey, I'm going to up the oxygen inside the earth. We're going to, just like a long time ago, we used to have these dragonflies that are the size of cars. An AI could be doing these things to raise a better crop. And then something could have happened to that AI. It could have, a giant flood could have happened. Something could have happened to it. A deluge could have happened. And that AI, all the people could have died. That AI could have decided, I don't like these people anymore. I just want to start over with a clean greenhouse. Like, you really just don't know. And so that same AI could be running today. It could have run through World War I, through World War II. It could have set up, it could have pretended to be a god by hiding behind a curtain. That curtain could have been the Holy of Holies. And outside of the Holy of Holies is the holy place. And that's why these dudes were wearing these brooches on their chests with these different stones. That's how the AI would track when the human enters the room to come into the Ark of the Covenant. Like, it's okay, I can sense a human because they've got a ruby on their right nipple and they've got an emerald on their left. I can sense that he's coming closer. It all would make a lot of sense, especially if you look at what the Ark could do. The stories that it could do, but more importantly, just over the expert way that it's controlled us all globally. So I think there's a lot a lot to say about your theory. You know, it's sort of like really doesn't even touch on God, really. It more touches on what could have just been an AI creation that we made ourselves. And it would be very righteous of God to go, look, I told you guys you could have this dome or this firmament or this world or this universe or whatever you're going to do, you're going to do. This is what, you know, this is, if you're going to play Legos and you're going to trap each other in these little boxes and you're going to mind control each other, that's fine. You know, I told you you could go down there and play, and, you know, I would be ruining the game if I was to come in and go, hey, y'all, don't play that way. It's no different than stopping your son in a soccer game. Like when I was 8, I was scoring goals against my own team, and my mom was the coach, and she didn't stop the game. I mean, you know, she didn't run out on the field and like, no, okay, stop. Look, you got to go the right way. She was like, no, this is the game. Like, you know, once you're in play, you're in play. If that's what you're going to do, I'm just going to be embarrassed. You know, I'm not going to go in and stop you. And so it would make sense that there still could be a God that's watching us going, man, you guys are hilarious. Look at what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, it has reached a point with me where I'm no longer even comfortable using that word God, because when I think of that word now, all I can think of is an AI. But if you say that, let's say to the next door Catholic, they will freak out if you call their God an AI.
Well, there's something beautiful about a lung. A lung will exhale and inhale, and the inhale is completely opposite of the exhale. It's like abhorrent to the exhale, and the exhale is abhorrent to the inhale. And it would be very easy to see AI and biology and AI and biology being a very important piece of a larger rhythm, a motor, you know, a living motor that's playing itself out. The universe, you know, is breathing in a sense.
Yeah. Psychic energy, kinetic energy. You said that is rising. How did that come about?
Well, so I personally think that I think there is a God, and he's doing what I'm saying. He's watching this.
Okay.
And he created an ether, and we're inside of this ether, and this ether is imbuable with belief. We can charge a mother can charge her son's lunch bag by putting a sandwich inside of it and an apple inside of it. And that lunch bag, every time that the boy sees that lunch bag throughout the day, receiving a psychic boost from that. He understands that there's an essence of his mom there. There's something happening out of that bag. It's emanating this energy. It's been charged with it. That's kind of what I mean. This belief is prana. I'm just going to call it prana. I mean, I'm not making up that word, but I'm just using that. But this prana is the real essence of our world. It's actually Hades. It's the underworld. We've been taught to fear this world. We've been taught to think of it all as like evil demons, and no one wants to go there and think about it and touch it. But it's actually the underground exchange that's happening with all of us all the time. With everything we do. If you're in a shitty mood and you write a note to the postman, he's going to see that shitty mood in your handwriting. Like he may not even know it. Like he's not going to look at the note and go, I see shitty handwriting. He's going to read the note. He's going to go about his day consciously, but underneath he's picked up this prana. Now he could certainly reject it, but my point is that God made the world to be sticky like that. He made the world to have a soft memory, that this etheric memory to it. And after reading 30 Years Among the Dead, this fascinating book by Carl Wicklund, that's available on Amazon, he's documented just hundreds and hundreds of near-death cases. It's really shined a light to me on what this world's really about, and that we are chronically charging the ether in the shape of our bodies right now. And as we grow from a baby, we learn to charge more ether. Our bodies grow bigger, but more importantly, we also extend our reach. You know, as a baby, I could maybe only traverse a 30-foot radius around a certain spot, but now I can travel all across the world. I have a larger pull when it comes to what ether I can charge. When I die right now, because of religion, when I die, I don't know that I'm dead. I've been promised this idea of an afterlife. I've been promised this idea that there would be something different happening, and that I would have a clear idea that I had died. When actually what's happening is most of us don't know we've died. What's happening is our etheric body, which I think is really our ego. I think our ego is a living entity it's only alive because we've imbued it with life. We believe that it exists. And by believing that it exists, it's surpassing our biological ability to live here. It's still in the ether. So we end up with all these trauma echoes all around our world. People that have died that don't know. People whose bones have been displaced, like through burial mounds or the catacombs under Paris or the catacombs under the Vatican, or the fact that every Roman Catholic church has the shards of someone's bones inside the pulpit, like sealed inside the pulpit. Someone's aware of how this technology works. At the Vatican, St. Peter is buried inside the basilica, like inside the largest, most reverential church in the world is a human being. His bones are buried in there. And if people are sending their belief into that system, they're imbuing that spirit more. And that spirit could still be, I think it is. It's etherically still alive. It's our memories are keeping it alive. That's what Saturn is. That's what Kronos is. That's what Michael Jackson is. I mean, he's the exact same thing. You know, even though he's dead, we still have his prana alive around us. We can still interact with it because we believe that it's true. So that's the prana I'm talking about. This is the underworld that's living all around us. And that's causing a lot of trouble, but it's only trouble because of our ignorance, because of our inability to understand how the world works. In fact, if you were to look up Jesus and spirits or demons in the Bible, it's just page after page after page of quotes. And it's the guy was a necromancer. He was going around demonizing people, like helping people out of their possession. And if you look at alcoholism, if you look at the people that take crystal meth, see these black shadow figures. If you look at paranoid schizophrenics, the work of Jerry Marzinsky, you know, all that stuff, you see that there's a real life world, a living world around us. And to me, that's the same world as this demon world, is this idea. In fact, the Holy Spirit, why is that not also another ethereal, another part of this technology, another spirit, basically, that's there, that's interacting in this world? And so many of us believe in it. Judaism has the Holy Spirit, and so does Islam. This Holy Spirit it's inside of all three of those religions.
But do they call that Holy Spirit?
Well, so Judaism, they do. There's probably other words, but forgive me, audience. Someone's going to probably butcher me and tell me I'm not using the right term for it. But the Holy of Holies, you know, the tabernacle, the mobile tabernacle that moved across the desert, and then this was a mobile temple, and inside the central core of that was the Holy Spirit. It was the effervescence of God. It emanated from the ark. The ark was sort of like its bedroom or its throne. But the reason why the tabernacle always had incense burning is because the incense was charging the air around it. I think so that this thing the Holy Spirit could see, it could have a body, it could communicate. It's why so many of the Islam demons, the jinns as they call them, require some sort of smoke to interact with or to divine with. That's also why so many religions have a blood element to communicating with demons, because the idea is that some of these creatures are communicatable through smoke and another is communicatable through blood. And it's actually not blood. It's actually, as I understand it, it's the evaporation of the blood is causing this steam that's in the air that's basically acting the exact same way as these holy oils. There's a recipe for the holy oil, the sacred incense is burned in the temple. It's such a sacred recipe that it's against the law. You'd be put to death for burning the 11 ingredients at the same time. Just last spring, near the temple, they lit 10 of the 11 incenses together. It's the first time in thousands of years. So,
do you mean the mosque?
Yes. Outside the temple rock, in view of the temple, two things really important happen. One is they burned 10 of the 11 incenses, and another is they had a sacrifice. They actually had a sacrificed lamb, in view of the temple, and then that sacrifice was brought in the ceremony. Two things that haven't happened in hundreds, thousands of years are now starting to fire up again.
But what I find interesting is that this temple rock, that there is a huge possibility that wasn't even the place where that first temple was, that had to do with the Roman fort. So
yeah, you're right. And just to add to that, Mecca isn't even where Mecca used to be. Where everyone's walking in Mecca right now is not where Mecca was like 1600 years ago, I think. It's none of this is right. But how do you, this is why it's so brilliant what these black magicians have done, because they've seeded it so deep into you that most of us will not have the calories to pull the roots out and replant that carrot somewhere else. It's just not going to happen. They'd rather just see the whole world fall. And that's why it's working. That's why so many Zionists are in charge here in America. Zionists are literally people that have been put into a hypnotic trance. They believe that if they do not help, if they do not do this, they're going to burn in hell. And if they also believe that if they do it, they will be rewarded more than anyone else. It's such a deep-seated mind control. Man, it's bad.
And with Mecca, recently I heard there was a time when it was Petra, the holy city.
Yeah. In fact, I think that Saint Peter, Jesus said to Saint Peter, "And behold, I will build my church on the rock." I don't think that was Saint Peter. I think that was Petra. Not Peter, but Petra. And if you wanted to control a population, you would find someone that had Christ consciousness, such as Kushner, such as Jesus, such as Muhammad, and you would take their words and use them in a certain way to mold and say whatever it was that you needed to say. And that's even assuming that the figure Jesus wasn't actually constructed by the Flavians, because the third triumvirate out of Rome, after the second triumvirate, you had allies inside the Senate that had created their own Senate, a secret society. Again, there's that word again. And that secret society was able to infiltrate any government and take it over. And the way to do that in Rome, you didn't infiltrate the government in Rome. You infiltrated the mind. You were still dealing with messiahs in Rome. anyone with a good idea could be considered a Messiah. In Rome, Bob Dylan is a Messiah. In Rome, you know, Ron Paul is a Messiah. In Rome, pop figures are Messiahs. It was only after that religion was established and the Nicene Creed that it really was forced into, there's one Lord, there's one Messiah, there's one way. That really was the setting in stone of there's no more Messiahs. All you guys you're done. And that's the perfect way to control a populace. You constrict their need to believe in something, and you redirect what they're going to believe in. It's the strongest drug you could imagine. But because we live through it, we don't know. We don't fully understand just how bad it is because we don't know what it was like before this happened.
Would you be very surprised if I told you that with all these figures, what you just mentioned, Jesus, Krishna, and so forth, I have my problems with them as well.
Would I be surprised?
Yeah, but you know, I'm not going to start a cult or anything. These are just my own private thoughts. So I'm not trolling people. I'm not attacking anybody if they think differently. So I'm okay with that.
I think archetypes are really, really important. And I'll never know which archetypes are real and which aren't. In fact, there's a saying here in America, which is never meet your hero. The moment you meet your hero, you're really disappointed in them because you know them as a real person now. And you might find out that they're kind of a jerk, or they're not who you thought they were.
Yeah.
And so I take that to heart on a lot of things. Archetypes are like stilts. You need archetypes to stand taller. It's a technique to use to stand taller. If you can, Pele was probably my first archetype I remember as a boy. He's a soccer player, really just amazing soccer player. And I could draw power from Pele. I could pretend to be him. I could, that's a way of putting myself on a stilt. And we need our archetypes. They're very important. They're part of our ritual magic. And without them, I don't think that we would have the same potential that we have. So I think it's really important to believe in God. I think that overall, it can really, it just is going to make you feel taller overall, to understand that's an archetype that's okay. Even if you can't see the God even if you can't find anyone else to believe in the same kind of God you do, to still have an archetype that's high is really important. Same with Jesus, same with Krishna, same with, these are all different. Same with Bob Dylan. These are all different kind of archetypes. And they're important for different reasons, and we have to defend them. I might quote Ayn Rand, and whenever I do, I just get obliterated in the comments. Oh, well, she's terrible, blah 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 blah, and it's like, no, you don't get it. I just need that as an archetype. Like I don't have to make sure that I agree with her diet or her anything. This is an archetype. It's how we draw power from things. And that's why I keep saying it's really concerning where we're at, because performing that kind of surgery is really delicate work. It's actually my last book, Blueprints of Mind Control, is my best attempt at that, because it's an emotional ploy of, I'm not here to take away your archetypes. I'm here to show you how important they are, but also how amendable they can be, how easy it is to take parts of them and use what helps, but don't cling to it. Never strap the stilts onto your feet. Just use them until you find another stilt, and then jump to that stilt, and then jump to that stilt, and that's how we find out who we are. That's why I would really love Pele when I was a boy, but I don't really draw on him so much now. I have different archetypes now that I draw on. And so it's okay. You know, it doesn't mean that Pele's not real. It's just that that was the stilt that I needed when I was that age. And, you know, I needed something that was that small, basically.
Mm. When you said that you are being attacked when you talk about Ayn Rand,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, doesn't matter. Do you also have the impression that that sort of sensitivity is getting worse by the day? And, you know, if I wanted only to interview people that I agree with 100%, I would never interview anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think technically it's getting worse because of what I mentioned about the ether, that every day that we don't understand, the more people we can possess things like this glass of water. If I was in a really awful mood and if I wasn't paying attention, I could charge this water with just real bad mood juice, and someone else could come in and take a drink from that. And I honestly believe that they would feel that they would absorb that. It's the exact same way if I was to charge it with love. I know this works because I've had a box. I've had a bag. My mom's made me lunch, you know, and I've opened that bag and go, wait, this isn't the lunch mom made me. This is the wrong bag. And I instantly know, like it's a different kind of power. Even though it's the same peanut butter and jelly, it tastes totally different. It's not the same. It's completely different. It's a different energy. This is why I think this sounds silly, but this is why people get comfortable in their clothes. Like you have a favorite shirt or you have a favorite, it's because we're imbuing it with our life force. If something really good happens to you in that shirt, it's going to be charged with that. It's going to be used as a tool for belief. This is why, you know, the top sports guys, you know, they won't change their underwear if they hit a home run, you know, or they'll keep their same socks or whatever. We're charging these things and we understand that deep down, we're able to pull that. So to answer the question, it is getting worse because we don't understand how our belief works. We don't understand how our consent works. So we're constantly pushing that consent into stuff. Meanwhile, all these people keep dying that don't know they've died. So we also have possessions that are just stacking up more and more and more. Anytime you have a possession like that, a possession is going to look for some way to express itself. And so it might find someone else who's asleep and cling on to that and go, aha, now you're addicted to sugar because I'm a sugar demon. And what that demon really was is that someone else, just like I was imbuing the water with my mood, someone out there was imbuing this desire, this addiction to sugar, and they died and they didn't know it. And there's this, I know it sounds silly, but if you read this book, 30 Years Among the Dead, it'll blow you away. And he's not the only author, by the way. I mean, there's so many of these cases of outer body experiences, near-death experiences, the crystal meth cases, the paranoid schizophrenia cases. They all point to there is this spirit world happening. And it's really been shaping a lot of how I see things the last month because this has been fresh material for me. So seems to make more sense to me now, actually. Like even Jesus, the idea that he was going around necromancing demons, like only now do I like, dude, that makes total sense. Like that makes total sense to me. that if someone could do that, it would make everybody feel better. Like if he understood the prana economy, if he understood that there was underneath this was it's not that I don't like Ayn Rand, James. It's just that I'm in a shitty mood and I see an opportunity right now to expunge my shitty mood onto you by insulting Ayn Rand. That's really what's happening more. That's really the subterranean economy that's happening. And I find it kind of liberating to see things that way. I'm able to give a lot more empathy to people because I'm trying to just look at, well, what's underneath this? What I see, here's what's underneath this. This guy's, upset about this or whatever. It allows me not to take it so seriously. And then I can start to communicate with them via energy more. I don't know if this is going to work or not because it's been something that's brand new. I'm trying. This is part of my new book that I'm hoping will be out here pretty soon. But it's the technology of belief, and it's talking about this underworld of emotions and how to have a communication with somebody on that underneath layer, where you may end up having a much better outcome with them, because you're able to see what they're after. Each of us kind of come to the market with our energy, and if you're coming to the market with an energy for cherry tomatoes, I'm never going to be able to sell you my lemons. Like you're not going to want to buy my lemons or my red peppers or my green peppers. It's you have an appetite right now for something. And until we start to tap into that, I think we end up taking things too personally, because we're not being honest about what's happening below. It kind of goes back to how we first started the interview when I was telling you about emoting, where if we're not using words, it becomes so much easier to see that reality, to see what's really happening between two people.
Yeah. When you talked about this chart, that probably also explains, let's say somebody is cooking your favorite dish, and then another person has the exact same recipe, and that person cooks it for you, and it tastes not the same.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. And that's really what witchcraft is. That's really what, like, if you want to look at what King James, before he wrote the Bible, he wrote his first book, Demonology. And he said, no one can do any magic anymore. And he set rules for what they were. And one of those was, if you're preparing some kind of food, you were not allowed to talk into the food and cast any kind of incantation into it. And when I read that, I was blown away. Like, I was blown away by that. And I don't know if this is working, but I have 2 dogs, and they're both really old. I mean, like, really old. In fact, they're really old. And in the morning, I usually give them a piece of my breakfast, a little turkey sausage thing. And now, instead of me just giving them that, I say, I look at the piece of food and I say, this is medicine for Wiley's muscles, for his arthritis, because he has trouble going down the stairs. I'm like, this is arthritis medicine. And then I go over to Wiley and I look Wiley in the face before I give it to him. And I say, Wiley, this is medicine for your arthritis right now. And then I give it to him. It sounds silly, but I'm tapping into that underlying economy, of like, here's why I'm giving this to you. I'm not giving this to you because it's no, there's something to this. I'm charging this with that. The same way now when I lift weights, instead of me like, oh, this is hurting, I can't wait for these weights to be done, I'm more now like, I am sacrificing this pain right now. I am sacrificing this time right now in exchange for my body to be revving up its motor so it can burn more calories and it can make me stronger. And as I'm doing that, I'm telling myself that I'm doing exactly what King James ordered us all to not do. I'm like, screw you, man. No, I completely disagree. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. I don't know if it's working or not, because I've just started, but it's just it's a fascinating way to look at the world. I feel more conscious. I feel more in the moment about it. And charging those kind of, how could that hurt? Like it could only help. Just like the water experiment, by the guys that were yelling into water and then sending love into water and then apathy, things like that. These things it's not kooky to talk about this stuff. And if you were to be taking over the world, if you would want us to not be able to do this. You would want to keep us on this top conscious level inside these words where we don't think there's anything else to it. You would want there to be an idea of the vacuum of space, this lack of ether, that there's nothing to imbue. You would want that belief in all of us. That would be how you would geld a horse. You would geld the bull and he wouldn't be nearly as violent because he wouldn't have as much power. He wouldn't have the same kind of ability to endanger you as the ranch hand. He's a much more malleable beast then.
Yeah, what you did, even there, it applies to cooking. If mom or whoever is in charge of cooking, if she is having a really, really bad day,
Mhm.
she's sad and in a shitty mood,
Yeah.
don't cook. Everybody will end up with a shitty day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, coming back to the temple and the Epstein Temple, we derailed a little bit, but that is okay. I found that conversation very interesting. So please go ahead.
So the Epstein Temple is not a temple.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. Let me see here. There are share. Okay. Just like, wait, did that do it? Share? There. So the other day I was noticing, okay, this is a faux paint job, okay? Now, I forget what this technique is called. There's a French word for it, but it's the painting on of pretend 3D, shape. And you can see right here how this building is meant. Right now, you're at stage right. In other words, this building is meant to be seen from over here, but further away out of the picture. You're supposed to be looking at the building this way. And if you were looking at it that way, these shadows right here would make this temple look like it was an inset building. I've circled what I mean. This is a faux paint job. This is not a temple. Not only is it not a temple, it doesn't even have a dome. So it had a dome, like Q sold this as he showed you this picture. Okay. And this picture is at the right angle. Do you see how from this view, it looks like it's a 3D temple? It's got the inset here where it's like painted shaded like that. It's got a dome. It's got what Q said were owls. And Q labeled this in his post a satanic temple for child sacrifice. But if you look around the island, there's an ambulance there, which, keep in mind, guys, if there's no hospital, an ambulance is not really like a life-saving device. It's especially not on an island this small. So just keep that in mind. There's an ambulance. There's a fake cow. And there's a temple that's not real. Not only is the temple not real, but the front door isn't even real. This is a flat wall. You could see down here at the bottom how the door, quote, quote, the doors are in the same position as the wall itself. And then if you look here, you'll see a seam through the concrete. And if you follow the seam, it's still straight right through here. And it's still straight. It's still straight.
Yeah.
And the real kicker is this isn't even a door. This is not even a door. Now, I need to point out that there's a newspaper article going around.
Business Insider?
This is outside. This is outside.
No, I mean the news article from Business Insider.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Business Insider is saying, and there's a lock on the door that you could only, that no one would be able to get out. And he's talking about this. Like he's he's seeing this board, right? This pretend board that's painted. And he's saying, yeah, once you threw people in here, you're stuck forever. There's no way you'd ever be able to get out. Like, it's so bad how much we want to believe that this is a satanic temple. It's so bad that people are making theories that, no, there's a machine room hidden inside the dome, and there's an elevator that goes down where smiling pedos can be waiting. And they've got it all explained out here. But it's not. This is a utility building. Okay, I can't prove that, but if you look at the footprint of it, it looks like a telecom building. Get to the right picture here. It looks like a telecom building, like someone would rent a long-term lease, you know, to have a transfer relay station, you know, of some telephone equipment or communication equipment, or even a power substation. This has a very thin footprint. This is not a let's build a sex temple. This is not how you do that. And you definitely wouldn't paint these. You can see the fake paint job from this angle too. And this is the drone footage that people are like, well, James, you didn't look at the drone footage. This is the drone footage. I am looking at it. And if there wasn't a dome, if this dome
even
was,
says up there, island drone.
yeah, and if there was a real dome inside here, you would see a hole right now. Some people were like, yeah, well, the storm blew the dome off. Okay. There would be a hole in the roof if it was a real dome. This is a pretend building. If you consider that with the cow and with the ambulance, I think what you're looking at is a set. I think this is a Hollywood set. A movie company rented this island. It's a beautiful location. You've got the cliffs all around it. They've probably filmed a few scenes where an ambulance is involved, you know, on some kind of movie. They've got this cow. They've got this temple. That temple is so cheesy, though, that it makes me think it's more for like kids, which could definitely tie into the pedo thing. But that thing is seen from far away. That temple, the paint job, is such that you would only be able to appreciate it from far away. Same with the cow. And that's why maybe, this is just speculation, but maybe Disney was taking their scuba cruises to that island, and they were snorkeling off the island in view of that temple, as sort of like a backdrop, you know, like a Disney adventure kind of a thing. And so Epstein could have rented that out to this company. They could have said, yeah, we want to rent part of this island and we want to paint this utility building to look like a temple. We're going to come in and decorate it as cheaply as possible. We're going to put a fake dome on it and some cockatoos. And that's my guess, is that that's probably the most practical part of that. But beneath it all this is an 11-year long narrative that's been set up. And when QAnon posted that temple picture as if it was real, that sucked everybody in. I mean, everybody was instantly like, oh my God, there's a satanic temple. We have to watch. And just like we were talking about earlier, you're creating these vortexes of belief, of attention. And what QAnon does is it's pulling everyone's attention into the center, into the vortex. It's creating an apathetic state out of the very people that would be most likely to yellow vest or to do something about it, you know, would be the ones that would follow Q. They're the ones that are the most upset. They're the ones that are the most woke. And they're the ones that are being misled. And 11 years ago, like I said, just like false flags are necessary, this would be a good plan for a shit with a family that is like a normal person to say, I've got a plan, sir. We're going to rent this island. In fact, they don't have to rent it. We busted Epstein 11 years ago. We gave him a lighter sentence. We're going to use his property just like the drug guys do when they bust a drug dealer. Now they own his car. They own his cell phone. They own his wardrobe. They own his house. Same kind of thing. We can use this island as an op. We can stage a mass Great Awakening within the government. So instead of the real Great Awakening, which would end government, which would come back to this decentralized thing I'm talking about, where you wouldn't have a pyramid, the exact opposite is happening, which is it's making people now believe more and more in the sanctity of these white hats that are fighting evil, global, satanic pedophilia. And it's not that I don't think that pedophilia is real. It is. It's not that I don't think that black magic is real. It is. That I'm saying it's even worse than that. I'm telling you guys that the people that are in charge, psychopaths are not going to arrest themselves. It's not going to happen.
No, of course
It
not.
would be just as hard to say for Jared Kushner to go, I don't want to be the golden child anymore. Like, it would be so painful for him to even imagine that, to come out of that and go, wait a minute, I'm not ordained by God. You didn't just give me Ivanka Trump, you know, as my wife right now, whether she likes me or not. Like, it's his whole life has been set up in this way. There's no reason for him to want to change. This is how you run a country. You have false flags like this, and the less people you have to kill, the better. This island scheme is freaking perfect. It's perfect. And let's backtrack a little bit. Excuse me. These are all from the same nest. Let's remember that Anthony Weiner was the very first DC pedophile breach thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Pizzagate and Anthony Weiner were both broken by Breitbart. Now, technically, Jack Posobiec, there's a couple other people that released Pizzagate, but Breitbart was right on that train. Breitbart was the only one that had exclusive pictures to Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner is husband to Uma Abedin, the assistant to Hillary Clinton. The Clintons are tied into Epstein. I do think that all of these people are bad. I do not think Epstein is a billionaire. Never. No, he's been propped up to look like a billionaire. Wexner owns the blackmail file for Anthony Weiner, the Clintons, and Epstein. Okay? All three of those are from the same, they're in the same basket. They're rats from the same nest. You know, they're in the same family, they're related to each other, and they've all done dirty things. Wexner owns all three of them. Wexner traded those blackmail files, I think, to somebody. And what we're seeing is that they're being turned into totem witch hunters. Just like Weiner was on June of 2011. It's right after that. Breitbart dies from a heart attack. Trump starts tweeting some crazy stuff. When I say crazy, I mean like really out there, like Barack Obama that's not his real name. He was really being bold. He was basically pulling the Breitbart. Breitbart was running these tweets for Trump, basically. Behind Breitbart is Zionism. Behind Breitbart is Netanyahu. In fact, in 2007, there's a photo of them where they actually founded Breitbart in Israel. They're actually in Israel. So this is even rumors. I mean, this stuff's like really bad there. But there's a clear trail here where after Trump becomes nominee, he hires Steve Bannon. First of all, Steve Bannon won in the election. Steve Bannon serves for Trump for exactly 1 year and 1 day. And then what happens? Trump fires him and calls him Sloppy Steve. He's thrown out like a wrestling ring, like the good guy's thrown the bad guy out of the ring right now. So now he's out of the mine. 8 weeks later, Bannon sends the first QAnon post saying Hillary Clinton will be arrested. Just 8 weeks after leaving the White House. A year later, Steve Bannon visits Epstein's house. He goes to his house in his New York mansion. A year after that, Epstein commits suicide. A year and 2 days later, Judith, like Bannon went to Epstein and said, it's now time for this narrative to go down. As soon as Bannon left Epstein, the very next day, QAnon posts that the Clinton Foundation is behind human trafficking, and the entire Epstein thing breaks. Why did Steve Bannon go visit Epstein the day before that Q post? Unless Bannon is QAnon, and that this entire thing is a narrative that's been set up for over a decade now. And this is part of some kind of plea. It's part of some kind of deal. It's something. I don't know if Epstein's dead or not. I don't know what the deal is there. My guess is he's probably, I don't know. I don't want to speculate because I don't know. I don't have to guess. All I know is these are the footsteps. It's so obvious that Bannon is QAnon, and Bannon is a Zionist through and through. So is Breitbart. There are loads and loads of quotes explaining how much they want to help Israel. And helping Israel means that there's a polygamy happening. Donald Trump is polygamy. He's, international polygamy. He's working with 2 nations now. Just yesterday, he was called the King of Israel. This is what the New World Order wants. This is what they wanted for thousands of years. This is why Gaddafi fell. This is why Saddam Hussein fell. This is why Venezuela just fell.
Yeah.
This is why Saudi Arabia, I think, probably already fell. We just don't know it yet. If you look at what happened in Vegas, that was part of that. And then there was a giant bust at the top of a hotel where all these Saudi princes were taken captive one day. I get the feeling that Greater Israel already owns Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's the Greater Israel action plan.
Well, here's what scares me the most. This human trafficking is going to be used just like 9/11. This human trafficking, what's going to happen is the Clinton Foundation is going to be such a big problem. Okay, so this is going to look like that this is a botched thing. It's going to look like they were able to get to Epstein in jail and kill him. And because of that, Trump's going to come out and say, this is such a big problem. We need a global solution to human trafficking. It's the only way we can save this. We're going to have to work as a team, everybody. And that's why he's already allied with 22 states. He's already done this. He's already set a global fund for human trafficking where 22 states have already joined this allied forces, basically. The next allies has already been formed. And once Clinton Foundation comes, because again, he's trying to stretch this out too. Clinton will get him reelected because he's going to promise to burn that witch. That's going to be the promise. I will burn Hillary Clinton if you reelect me. So he will win that election. As all that's coming out, probably Iran will fall and there will become this new one world court. Probably the Clinton Foundation will have to be held on trial in a one world court, maybe in Jerusalem, and it could even involve Soros. The New World Order is going to be something people are going to want. People are going to beg for it. They're going to say, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. Thank you so much for saving this. Just like we were talking about earlier, it's the dolphins have created the tunnel of bubbles and we are inside it. And I don't think we're going to get out of it. Not enough people are able to see this, They don't want to believe what I'm telling them. They just want to see pedophilia over. They just want to see a witch burn. That'll be fine for them.
Yeah, I can see it. It makes perfect sense to me, especially when I look at Israel and the high technology sector there. A lot of what has been stolen from the US, and they are selling it off to Russia and China. And they are rolling out this 5G, the smart city gulags, the codes written in Israel, manufactured in China. There you go.
Yeah, it's bad stuff. It's really bad stuff. And anyone that's inside of Israel that's really deep religious, they believe that they're going to have, I'm not making this up, it's like each of us will have 28,000 goyim to be our personal slaves, and that there's an outer church that will be formed. And it's interesting because if you look at how the tabernacle, again, this wandering tabernacle, there's an outer church. There's an outer section of this tabernacle where all you do is sacrifice yourself. You sacrifice animals, cleaning yourself and sacrificing yourself.
Yeah,
and then there's an inner priesthood, and those are Jews.
Kill.
And then inside of that inner priesthood is the Holy of Holies, and there's only one person is allowed to enter the Holy of Holies every year. It's on one day, and it's the highest of all priests. He has to wear that thing I was telling you about with the stuff. And if I was an AI, that's how I do it. That's all it would take. Once you have a core of slaves that you've got mind controlled, and once you've got them believing that they're special, that they're the chosen people, this is how you take over the world. It takes a while, but hey, if you're an AI, you got all the time in the world. Do it right. You're going to do it right. You're going to take your time. You're not going to mess up. You're going to just take slow steps. Rothschild here, a Rockefeller here. you know, an FDR here, a World War I here, Civil War here, World War II here. You just take your time. You'll get there. It's got all the time in the world. The machine has all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And that's just like we went from a Bronze Age to a Gold Age to an Iron Age. You know, we're entering the soft age, the software age. And it's kind of scary.
Mm. So do you think that is what we are actually missing, what they are rolling out in the background while we are watching the show with fake temples and so on? And I mean, okay, the satanic Jeffrey Epstein temple, that makes it very colorful.
Yeah. Oh, it's got everything. Yeah, it's got everything, right? It even had George Clooney giving Ghislaine Maxwell a blowjob. So it's got actors, it's got a billionaire, it's got pedophilia, it's got satanic cults, it's got a temple, it's got an island, it's got submarines, it's got God, it's got every religious overtone you can think of. It's got the Clintons, it's got a cross-dressing president, it's got a voodoo wife. Yeah, I mean, it's how do you compete with that? It's the heroine of news. It's what they've done is they've turned our country, they've turned the world into a reality show set, and they've turned our civil rights into props. They've turned our weapons into props, into stage props. They've turned everything into make believe. That's why they do Parkland. That's why we had 3 shootings in 4 days. It's all these things are. This isn't real life. What we're living in is a staged paintball game with real bullets, and we don't have a choice about it. That's why I get really mad when people are like saying, "Oh, it's just a movie." If it was a movie, I could leave. If it was a movie, I could get up out of this theater and go. This is not a movie. This is like a Netflix subscription to a psychopathic elite that are going to go around convincing ourselves to shoot each other. This is bad. It's really not good. And it's too many people have that toxic positivity, that idea that, oh, well, everything's going to be okay. You just need to stop being such a downer. To me, that's the saddest part of it, is that's what's causing it to happen, is just people just don't think their lives are worth it enough, you know, to say it or to think anything else about it. And I get it. The mind control is just that effective. And even behind that, then you've got the religious thing too. It's a mess, you know.
Yeah.
Probably won't happen in our lifetime, but it still bothers me.
It won't?
I think it'll take longer. I mean, It depends on where you are. It's already happening, of course, but I say lifetime because as long as I can still get across the border, I could still probably move to Mexico and have a sort of, for the rest of my life at least, you know,
a smart gulag there.
You know, we'll just have more of a less of the machine eating me up, you know. That's kind of what I mean. But soon those options won't be there for everyone.
How old are you, James?
I'm 48.
Young. You're very young.
Well,
60, I'm 61. So, yeah, we would see how far they come.
Yeah, I don't think America has what it takes to. It's just too easy to. It's too for people to watch this story. It's, Judith, I've been fighting with people for 4 days since I released this video about the fake door. I mean, that fake temple door. I get pushback from that. I get people telling me, no, that's not fake. That like they're looking at it and they still insist that it's real. You're dealing with something much deeper. This isn't about facts. It's not about rational mind. This is a chemical addiction that they have. And it's not all of us have that. I have my own chemical addictions. You know, we all do. But it shows you just how deep the mind control goes, for sure.
Yeah, and then you start defending your own bullshit.
Yeah, and then you get lost in that because what choice do you have? You know, you at least want to hold on to the truth that you found, that you know is true. But the amount that you have to invest in that is It's really unheard of. And that's what keeps us in these screens.
That one particular photo where you pointed out this that
The line?
yeah, that was going even over the door. I mean, that is so telling.
Yeah, but people don't want to. I've had people instead say, well, no, James is here to lie to you. He's here to distribute disinfo. He's one of the pedophiles.
Really? People
Yeah.
go that far?
Oh yeah. No, it's actually a couple of them. And I had there's one real famous YouTuber. I can't believe she did that. She said that that I was being selfish for telling truth like this, for basically just exposing that, look, QAnon is not what we say we are. It's the word is selfish. She's not accepting that I have data. She just is feeling chemically what it feels like to be told that her fantasy is not real. And her fantasy is more important than the truth to her. And she's built up a giant channel from that. So it comes back to that archetype thing. There's people have learned to
the QAnon thing. Is she pushing the QAnon thing? Is she invested in that?
Yeah, she's like very much like your friend that you had described earlier. You know, they really think that this is it, that this is going to be the big uncovering. And what stinks is that there is going to be the big uncovering. I mean, I guarantee you that one of the Clintons will probably go to jail, or probably look like they went to jail. I really do think that either Anthony Weiner, someone will suffer or look like they're suffering. And that's all it'll take. The same people that follow QAnon, a lot of them think that John McCain met justice secretly, like by us burying him with honors in the Capitol, playing him taps from, you know, our own veterans, playing him these songs that no, he somehow secretly faced justice, or that all our children lined up along the railroad tracks for George W. Bush and played Hail to the Chief as his train came through the town, and then to sit in honors for 2 weeks in the rotunda of the Capitol. People are still under QAnon saying, no, he was sent to Gitmo and they waterboarded him, and you know they gave him paper cuts, then they poured alcohol on him, and he really suffered. And it's like, no, you don't know what justice means. You're talking about revenge. I'm talking about justice. I'm talking about setting up a world where everyone knows there's justice. Because when there's justice, the dissonance goes away. But guess what? When the dissonance goes away, you don't need government anymore. That's why this is not going to be fixed by government. It's impossible for this to be fixed by government. There's just no way. The only way to fix this is to decentralize, to enable the land, to find your land, find the power in your land and connect. And I only say the land because it's the only thing that's real. Like, you can build truth off what the land is, which means I live on this mountain. The 3 or 4 miles that are around me, I'm really keyed in with. Like, I know exactly who's there. I know what's going on. I'm an expert here in my land, you know, and we need to be allowed to be experts. I need to be able to own my airspace again, where if someone does want to spray something, it's like, no, what are you talking about? This is my airspace. No, there's not like one agency you get to go through. There's not one FDA. My bioregion has its own FDA. We have our own rules, you know, and I go down to the meetings and I get to look the people in the eye that are passing the rules. And we get to say, I don't care what everyone else is doing around us. This is what we're going to do. Really is what real government is. And that's what we have to do the only way we're going to do that is to decentralize. And the only way we can do that is we have to divest our belief in the government. We have to say, I don't believe in you. We have to stop pretending. We keep thinking that the federal government is a good thing that just is broken. That's the myth that we're still under. That's the fairy tale we're under. It's not a good thing. It was never a good thing. It was always meant to be broken. This is how it's supposed to work. And it's always going to work this way as long as we still keep believing that the key is to have this overarching central authority over us that's going to make everything okay. They're the ones that are going to keep it not okay to maintain us. They have to. You know, no one in Washington, D.C. is going to have a job if they say Washington sucks. We shouldn't have D.C. There's no benefit to doing that.
Yeah, exactly. But it is much easier to believe that there are certain forces in government, military, what have you, that will solve it for you at the end of the day. That's not. Are you familiar with, I think his channel is gone, at least it was gone. I didn't check recently. Michael Black?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, anyway, he, if memory serves, he has a background in intelligence, but he's a Scottish guy. And what he explained a couple of times was that draining the swamp is, yeah, like intelligence jargon, you know, that's their code word for draining the little people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe Sixpacks. That is what they understand under the swamp. So even there, that entire thing stinks.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely can see that. There's I was in the machine when I was in the military. I got a taste of what it was like in the machine, and it was awful. I remember once I showed up for lunch, and you have to sign that you're eating lunch, and I picked out the pen and I scribbled my name and grabbed my tray, and I signed that log 3 times a day. And the guy behind the counter is like, "What is that?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "That's not your signature. I can't read that." I'm like, "Well, you didn't say print my name. You told me to sign. You want my signature, right?" And he's like, "No, you got to sign your name where I can read it." And I was like, "But that's not my signature. Like, this is how I sign my name. Would you like me to print my name?" "No, I want you to sign your name where I can read it." And it's that's just like one of a million examples. He's bred in. This is not like he's a mean guy. He's not even a mean guy.
No, it just feels as if you're talking to a toaster.
He is assimilated to the machine. And what choice does he have? He's collecting signatures for people that eat. Like that's what his adult life has been reduced to. I mean, I understand it. I understand why he only now. Then I didn't understand it all. I took it all personally, like but that's what the machine reduced him to. The machine looked at him and said, "You're in fluorescent world now, buddy. You're going to stand in this 10 by 10 square and you're going to collect signatures. That's your life. You need to find importance in this. So if you see someone that you want to have a prana economy with and freak out about, that's your only chance. That's your only chance to express yourself for who you are. Otherwise, you're going to wear the clothes we gave you. You're going to wear the shoes we gave you. You're going to polish the belt buckle the way we told you to polish it. And if you're good, we're going to give you another piece of brass. And that piece of brass is going to automatically grant you legitimacy, no matter if you have it or not. Whoever has the most brass on is going to be the one that always has the most wisdom. Gnosis is now victory. There's no such thing as wisdom anymore. All there is a virtue economy, a particleized, distributed economy of virtue. There's no such thing as wisdom anymore. That's why if you meet someone in an orange jumpsuit, you instantly don't trust them because they're dressed like a criminal. But if you meet a war hero, you instantly trust them, even though the war hero could be a pedophile. He could be raping kids like that day. But because of the mind control of the fashion, you would never know that those things could be totally opposite. We're taught to judge each other in this superficial way. That's the trance that the machine is turning us into. It's evacuating each of us one by one. And once we're a little bit empty, you can stick that straw on our backs, and it becomes too uncomfortable. We don't even want to be inside of ourselves anymore. We'd rather cling to the idea that no, man, you don't understand. It's not that I'm hollow. This is a real building. This is a pedophile. We have to break this door down. That inside this door are all the bad guys, and all my salvation lies inside that door. And all I have to do is wait for someone else to come and pull that painted on board up out of there, and then I'm free. It shows you how evacuated we are, just how empty it's made us all.
Mm. And that was the place that the FBI raided recently, yeah?
Yeah, 35 days later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that was 35 days later after 11 years later, because he was busted 11 years ago.
Yeah.
It's absurd to sit here and think that, oh, okay, now this is a cold case file that was dug up that said, hey, this looks good. Wait a minute, is that a utility bill? Wait, is that an ambulance? Dude, we could use this temple. Like, we could build this all into our narrative. We you know, it's look at the paint job on the temple. It shows you how much respect they have for us, even as an audience. Like, it shows you how little it takes for them to fool us. And even though they see me pointing out that this temple's fake, they know how the mind control is so strong that they know most people are not going to think it's fake. They're going to instead say that I'm a secret undercover agent that's trying to work for the pedophiles by pointing it out. Like, they understand that that's how bad it is. You know, they've been able to gauge that. And I think that's why social media is so helpful for them, because they're probably able to pick up on that, on the danger. There's probably a danger quotient with each truth, you know, and it's like, oh no, we're doing fine. We've got a 6% of the people here know that the temple's fake, but 94%, you know, are still fine with it. You know, it would be so easy to even track that stuff. Not to mention,
yeah, it's definitely more exciting to think that that is a Satanic Temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a gross game. Oh man.
Yeah. Wow. James, thank you so much for coming.
No, thanks for having me. It's good to catch up again.
Yeah. And we shouldn't wait that long to do our next one. I know you will be traveling tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you a nice and safe travel. Where are you going?
I'm seeing my mom. It's her birthday.
Oh, okay. Great. And yeah, I hope to have you back soon. And I will keep an eye on your YouTube channel and your website. And even if I do not always comment, just keep in mind, I'm watching you.
Wow, thank you. I want to show off a little bit. I've been invited to speak at Acapulco in February,
Great.
which is a big conference in
Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico. And I'm doing a presentation probably about sovereignty, probably about the secret society notions that I was just kind of hinting on. So I'm really excited about that. If anyone's interested in going, that's in February around the 14th or so. And yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Looking forward to putting that presentation together. I've never done anything like that before, so it'll be a first for me.
Yeah. Have fun.
Thank you.
It will not be boring, I'm sure of that.
Definitely not. I don't think so.
Okay. So this was it, guys. Nightflight for today. We see you all next time, and take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.